All right, we are in the home stretch of Drigdrishya Viveka. So he repeats himself a lot in this, so there is actually no need to summarize because uh, it's there's a lot of repetition in here. It's which also makes it great. It's great efficient. It's a very short read and very effective. It's great. So let's dive back into it. The notion of separation and limitation are merely thoughts produced by the mind that arise in awareness. The notion of being a separate, limited, and finite self arises as a mental emotional perception because of the mind's projection of and identification with the felt sense of limitation. When the projections of the mind are traced back to their origin, the notion of separation is healed. Misperception ceases, and separation dissolves as the unreal notion that it is. Okay, that's almost a summary of everything we've talked about so far. So let's go on to the next verse. Awareness is whole and without parts. Statements such as "Thou art that." Uh, I'm gonna update the dictionary. So statements such as "You are that," "That you are," and "I am pure awareness." This self is pure awareness. Pure awareness is what everything is. Pure awareness is unknowable, and I am that unknowable. Reflect the truth of non dual awareness. The notion of being separate, finite, and limited is not found in either the descriptions or realization of essential nature. So, what he's saying here is all of our perceived problems come from the sense that we wrongly believe that we are a limited being that's finite and separate from everything we're perceiving. This is the whole crux of the whole study here. And when you investigate it, we find it not to be true. And once we find that those statements that he just went through are true, you are that which you're looking for. The self is pure awareness. You are really just existence and awareness and nothing else. That notion of being separate and finite and limited is it dissolves. And by definition, once you notice you're not limited, obviously the notion that you're limited dissolves. Next verse. The illusion of separation, and it is an illusion, which is brought about by the two aspects of projection and concealment. Projection and concealment are what we talked about earlier. Your mind's power to create a story out of nothing, projection, and concealment, it means suspension of disbelief, where concealment of the fact that you've created this reality that you believe to be real. This belief that you believe to be real is concealment itself, suspension of disbelief. So these two aspects he's talking about, when he talks about projection and concealment, he's talking about the power of you to create stories out of nothing and then forget that you've created stories out of nothing and believe them to be real. These two powers arise within and are not separate from awareness. The experience of separation appears to divide and limit the indivisible and unlimited nature of awareness and makes it appear as the world of separate objects and embodied separate I selves. Again, he's repeating himself here. This is exactly what we're talking about, that the act of experiencing, the act of seeing itself naturally creates a notion that something is seen and something is seeing it. So the act of seeing itself creates this seer and the seen relationship. That they're everything's separate objects. Next verse. The mind fallaciously appears to perform various actions as well as enjoys their results in the erroneous form of a separate individual. He's starting to get into the realm of disproving free will here. I know it's a hotly debated topic whether we have free will or not. I am going to I'm going to jump ahead and actually solve that topic very easily. Upon investigation, when you really look at it, the notion of volition, if there's a concept of you and that you make these decisions upon how you interact with the external world, and you cause things to happen to yourself and cause and effect and karma and all that stuff is actually, when you investigate it, all of it is found to be total nonsense. It's all part of the story that you've created as reality. The mind divides what is not two into a universe of separate objects of enjoyment, which consists of various combinations of the elements. Next verse. The sense of being a separate I self who experiences a separate universe has existed since the beginning of time. Debatable. Time is a creation of the dividing mind that splits what is timeless into the notion of past, present, and future. Okay, he's debating himself here. The notion of being a separate self who is aware of a separate universe has only empirical existence, meaning a tangible, testable existence, is only conceptual and remains true only until awakening as awareness. So space-time, cause and effect, past, present, and future, all of that only feels true when you don't actually investigate its actual truth. Once there's the awakening of awareness, as he puts it here, then it goes on to the next. Both self and world are not separate from awareness and are cognized to be real only as long as the mind projects, identifies with, and believes in the notion of separation. The story that you're telling yourself as reality. Next verse. As long as the belief in separation exists, the notion of causality exists. Cause and effect we're talking about, including karma. The mind projects the existence of the individual in the waking state and then imagines it afresh in the sleep and dream states. He's going back to that. Next verse. The individual and world that are cognized in the dream state are illusory. They're not real. We can't argue with that. Right? Who you are playing in a dream and everything going on in a dream, even though it feels real, we know that it's all projections of the mind. When dreaming ends, the dream self and all the dream objects are realized to be merely products of the dreaming mind. When you wake up, you're able to say, oh, that was just a dream. You know it wasn't real. Next verse. While the dream self believes that the dream world is real, the waking self believes that the dream world is unreal and the waking world is real. So when you wake up, we all experience this. When you wake up from a dream, everyone goes, that was a dream. It was not real. But this awake world is real. We all feel this way. But both these selves are only passing projections of the mind. So even when you are awake, upon investigation, when you stop and think about it, yourself, even in the waking world, is just a passing projection of the mind. Ephemeral concepts that come and go in awareness, which is the underlying reality, devoid of separate selves. Awareness is the real reality.